All right, and welcome back to the Influencer Club. We had a really cool broadcast earlier with the Lifestyle Show with folks from the Center of Influence Networking Group here in Vancouver. And so today we had a conversation with the CEO and founder of Mavens and Mogul .com, paige-arnof-fenn, and it was a really cool conversation speaking with her about the importance of marketing and how to do it right, making sure that you're testing it and making sure that you're testing it the right way so that you're actually going to the people who are going to use the product. Those people are going to lay the money on the line to have the product in the end. And she does some really cool things, and has done some really cool things with with her past with Procter Gamble. So she isn't just some how to put it, little person that I'll hang my shingle up in and call myself a marketing expert. Procter and Gamble, if she worked with them, then she really knows what the heck she's doing with marketing. And I'll tell you right now, if you go to mavensandmoguls.com, and you can check her out over there. But for right now, I'm going to play the conversation that we had together, and we will see you next week after this, because I did try to play this yesterday and we had some tech difficulties getting it going, but we're going to play the whole conversation and sit back for the next about 40 minutes or so and listen to what she has to say, and prepare yourself for next week to build your marketing based on what paige-arnof-fenn has to say about marketing. Okay, so without any further ado, we're going to get to Mavens and Mogul with our conversation with paige-arnof-fenn. Here we go. The Influence Club, and I'm Michael, and today I'm here with paige-arnof-fenn, and Paige is the creator, CEO, and founder of Mavens and Mogul, and you can find them at mavensandmoguls.com. And some of her other accolades, and as I'm reading through her website, is you were former VP of marketing of Zipcar. Now that's an amazing feat. Zipcar is pretty well known even here in Canada for for the concept that they came up with. So Paige is, of course, a marketing expert, and she's here to tell us a little bit more, of course, about Mavens and Mogul, and also how she actually got Mavens and Mogul to actually grow. So let's bring Paige into the show. Good morning.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So, you were telling me a little bit off air about how you actually got to creating Mavens and Mogul, and one of the important things that I wanted to go through with you again, the story about how you tested the name, because that testing the name is really important.
Absolutely. So as I was telling Michael before, I started my marketing career at Procter Gamble, which is kind of the mecca of marketing. They invented the concept of brand management. It's one of the largest consumer products companies in the world. In every category they compete in, they're number one or number two in shampoo, in dish soap, and toilet paper, and paper towels, and diapers. I mean, they have Tide and Pantene and Oil of Olay and Charmin and Bounty. It's, market leaders in every single category. And P&G is very data driven. and they don't really do anything without testing it with their consumers. So when I realized I was going to be starting a marketing consulting firm, I realized we needed a name. We needed to be official. I needed to have a website so we could exist in the virtual world. And once you have a website, I think people don't know if you're a big company or a small company. So I jokingly had referred to the people that I had assembled. The women were the marketing mavens and the guys were the marketing moguls. And for short, I call them mavens and moguls. But that was really just my working name of the team. And with my P&G training, I decided it was really important that I better test and make sure we picked a strong name, because I think your name is so important to building a strong brand. So we tested a whole bunch of names, dozens of names over email, and I threw mavens and moguls on the list, but many of the names were quite serious. You know, integrated marketing solutions, strategic marketing advisors, like all kinds of marketing consulting type names. And I sent it out to probably 100 people on the list, people who might be potential clients or people that might refer business to us, because I wanted them to, weigh in on how strong of a name we were considering. And people responded very quickly over email. And the overwhelming majority of the people chose Mavens and Moguls as one of their top 3 favorite names out of almost 100 on the list. So I was very surprised. I didn't expect that at all. There were 3 people on the list that specifically said they did not like Mavens and Moguls as a name. So after I had gotten all the responses back, I picked up the phone to call the 3 people, just because it had come up as such a strong name except for these 3. So I wanted to really understand what the problem was with the name. And the first person said they just thought it was too cutesy, not serious enough. They thought we needed a more official name. The second person I called said that actually, upon reflection, now that a few days had passed, that's the only name of all the ones. They couldn't even remember what the names were that they chose. That the only name they actually remembered was Mavens and Moguls, and now they love it. They didn't like it at first, but it's the only one that stuck with them. And one of the criteria I had asked people about is I want a name that's memorable, that really stands out from the pack. The third person that had said not Mavens and Moguls told me on the phone, I hated all your names. I think you should call your company Company X, because that would just be a lot edgier. Well, I thought that was a terrible idea, so I discounted that person and threw out their response completely. So then I realized there's really only one person that didn't like it because he thought it was too cutesy, but everyone else really liked it. So I pretty much just took that research at face value. At P&G, when you do research, it can take 9 months or a year in the market to test it so that it's statistically significant. I just literally did an email, Zoomerang or Survey Monkey, got quick feedback within a couple days, and by the end of the week, we had our website up with a new logo, and our name was Mavens and Moguls, and it's been with us ever since. And honestly, I still love the name. We've been around for 18 years now, and it's a strong name. People do remember us, and I like the alliteration, Mavens and Moguls. And maven is a Yiddish word for expert. My great-grandmother would have said know-it-all, but it technically is an expert. Mogul is someone of rank, power, or distinction in a specified area. So it's really nice that, I feel like I have this network of awesome marketing talent, and our name reflects that.
I like the fact that you brought your grandmother into this one with the know-it-all part. That's funny.
Well, she actually spoke Yiddish, and so she would have rolled her eyes at me that I was being a little maybe too cocky calling us mavens. But I really do feel like this is an awesome group of marketing talent. I started my marketing career in 1990 at Procter Gamble, which, as I said, is kind of the mothership of great marketing. And I've got 4 dozen folks under the Mavens and Moguls umbrella who all have incredible marketing credentials. And we kind of cross consumer, technology, nonprofit, branding, PR, thought leadership, online marketing, social media, market research, quantitative, qualitative. So it really is kind of a rock star group of marketers.
Wow, that sounds like an impressive list of talent, and let alone people. So, of course, we're trying to teach our listeners the important things to make sure they're including in their business to make their business grow. So, how important is, of course, marketing to actually making your business grow?
So I may be a little biased, I have a marketing company, and my tagline for my company is because marketing matters. And I really do think marketing matters. So I will answer your question with just throwing it out there that I might have a little bit of bias on this, but I think marketing is really important. When I went to business school, my marketing professor had a quote, and he used to say, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. And I used to laugh when he said it, but now that I've been doing marketing for decades, I kind of think he's right. So for me, I think to be able to build your awareness and visibility and get known and own some real estate in your customer or clients' minds, I think marketing really matters. I think it's really important to stand out from the pack so that you have unique real estate that you own in your potential customer's brain, so when they have a problem that your product or service can fix, that they think of you first. So I really think marketing matters.
Yeah. So, and of course, you came from Procter Gamble, and I will tell everybody out there from my point of view, because I started at the time when you were starting in marketing, I was starting in engineering. And one of the things that they impressed upon us in university in engineering is, and it's also something that Procter Gamble does, when you say they test everything to make sure that it is marketable, as well as the public, how the public is going to receive it. So with that being said, that if you couldn't package a process or a product into something that looked good, they weren't going to take it. It got thrown by the wayside.
That's exactly right. No, they are the most data-driven consumer packaged goods company in the world. It doesn't matter what you think or what I think. It's what does your customer think and what does the data say. And if you can't justify it and prove it, it doesn't go, it will never go to market. So that is my training and upbringing, and that's the advice I give my be honest.
Yeah. So as a marketing person, because I have gotten into this conversation with a few people, and they're like, no, you have to come with a concept and then try to market it. And I usually tell people that you need to listen to the market and let them tell you what they're looking for, and then supply it.
That's exactly right. I mean, the problem is, people will come to me sometimes and say, I have this great idea, and they'll tell me, and it doesn't sound like a great idea, and I'll say to them, I'm just curious, what made you think this was a great idea? And they'll tell me that, their mother, their best friend, their neighbor, their spouse thinks it's awesome. They've shared the idea, and everyone loves it. And the problem with that is, you're asking people who love you and care about you and are friends or family, and they don't want to hurt your feelings. People won't tell you if your baby's ugly. They're just going to smile and say, oh, what a cute baby. And so you can't really trust people in your inner circle to give you true market feedback. You have to go to people that are going to vote with their wallets and pocketbooks. If the market isn't going to buy what you're selling, it's not a good product or service, and there's just no way around that.
Okay. So that would be step one, of course, in your business.
Market research is absolutely a foundational element to any marketing plan. Some people tell me, well, I did market research, and then they'll show me the questions that they ask. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, if you ask questions that are leading the witness, what do you love about this product? Or don't you think this packaging is great? Or, do you like the blue color of the product? You've asked the question in a way that basically is people, again, they don't want to hurt your feelings. They'll go like, oh, sure, that's great. Or, yeah, I love it. Thanks. That doesn't really give you information. I always tell people, garbage in, garbage out. That's not market research. If you don't ask questions properly, you're not really collecting data. You're just getting people to stroke your ego, and that's not helpful.
So how would you actually state questions so that you actually get what it is that you need back, so you start off on the right foot?
Right. So I think you want to ask not leading questions, but very fact-based questions, and get them to simulate a buying experience on a scale of 1 to 10. If you had $100 and you had these 5 things to choose from, how much money would you allocate? And some of the things they might not allocate any money to. Well, that tells you something. When I was at Procter Gamble, one of the brands that I used to work on, I was one of the brand leaders on CoverGirl Cosmetics, which is a leading cosmetic brand at mass, in drugstores and in the mass market at, Walmart, Target, grocery. And we used to conduct market research with, teenage girls, because that was a big part of our market. And I would invite teenage girls into the conference room after school, and I'd bring in pizza and Coca-Cola, and I'd throw a lot of makeup on the table. And we'd talk about makeup in the focus group, and all these girls were part of our target audience. And I'd ask them questions, and I'd let them play with the makeup and polish their nails or put on the lipstick. But I knew every piece of makeup that was on the conference table when we started. Mm-hmm. When we talked, and I asked them lots of questions, and they'd tell me, oh, I like this, I like that, blah, blah, blah. And then the meeting was over, the pizza was gone, they took their Coke, they left, and then I looked at what was left on the table, and I knew exactly which lipsticks, nail polishes, and makeups were missing. And the colors that they stole, and I mean, it was fine. I didn't mind that they took it. They were, they'd already been used, so we would have thrown them out anyway. But I knew that the colors that they took were going to be our best-selling shades immediately. Like, I could tell, they could tell me they like matte versus shiny versus sparkly. But if the most popular girl at the table tells you she likes something, then most of the other girls are going to agree with her, because they don't want to, everybody wants to fit in and be accepted. But if she says she likes the matte shade, but all the matte shades were left on the table and everyone took with them the sparkly ones and the shiny ones, then I knew that matte shades really weren't going to sell. Like, that wasn't going to be the popular shade. The ones that they put in their pockets and walked out of the room with, those are the ones they're going to wear, and they might not have been the ones they told me about. So you have to be very insightful and perceptive and listen to what they say, but also watch what they do. That's the key.
Yeah, that is absolutely genius. I love that. Did you actually watch more closely? You listened to what they said, but you watch more closely what they were doing, and
right?
That gave you the answers. That's
absolutely bingo.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's another one of those big mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs actually make out there, is that they don't pay attention to what people are doing before they actually start trying to be something.
Right. People will tell you things because they want to fit in, they want to be accepted, they want to be popular, they want to be right, they don't want to hurt your feelings. But you have to look at the data. What does the data tell you? Don't just listen to what they say, look at what they do.
So one of the key points of marketing, would you say, is what is recordable and trackable, right?
You have to be able to measure it, absolutely. To scale, you need to be able to measure. What's the baseline? And then when you when you're testing things and you make changes, if you change the subject line on an email, or you change the color, or you change the packaging, how does that affect the results? And you should be able to track and measure everything, because that's how you know what's really working. It's not anecdotal. It's not some brash salesperson telling you. It's what is the data show.
Mm-hmm. So, moving along with things though, because Mavens and Mogul is very unique sounding. And
exactly, that was one of the criteria for our name. I wanted us to be the not your father's Oldsmobile version of marketing consultants. And I think a lot of the names, as I said, were kind of generic. And when you are wallpaper, you just blend into the background. And I wanted a name, I have a hyphenated last name. Mm-hmm. And so if people didn't remember me or the company, I wanted something to stick in their brain. And it's funny because I've run into people at networking events who have told me they had a marketing problem and they remembered either reading an article of mine or hearing me give a speech, and all they could remember was my name was Paige and the company was Mavens. They couldn't remember my last name, which is hyphenated, or the full name of my company, Mavens and Moguls. So they Googled Paige and Mavens, and guess what? We popped up number one. They clicked through. They contacted me, and I've gotten a lot of business that way. So you do have to be memorable. You have to have a name that is a good representation of your brand. And, like I said, I think it's a great way for us to stand out from the pack. If you had the choice to hire a company called Strategic Marketing Advisors or Integrated Marketing Solutions or Mavens and Moguls, you'd probably want to look and see what we were all about, because we sound different. And so all you need is someone to start the conversation. If we can get the conversation started, I think we can close the business. If they meet us, they usually hire us.
Yeah, because it's one of the things that a lot of small businesses wind up in the minutia, and it seems that just from your name itself, one Paige is very, very memorable. Your first name, and of course Mavens. It's like who comes up with Mavens? It's like,
exactly.
So, what are some of the other ways that our listeners can actually break out of that minutia and get found?
So there are a couple things that have really worked well for me, and we talked a little bit about it. So the first thing I would recommend is what I call a listening tour. And we talked a lot about listening to your customers. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it is in Canada, but in the U.S., the politicians love going on listening tours. They do these big meetings with, town hall meetings where they get up on stage and they want to hear from the people and talk to the people. Well, your brand can do the same thing. You can go out and listen and talk to people. So it's not very expensive, but it's a really good way to hear what's going on. And you can do it a lot of different ways. The way I tend to do it, because I like getting together with people one-on-one, either invite people for lunch or coffee or breakfast and offer, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Can I grab you for a meal? I have some questions to ask you. And I like asking open-ended questions about their business, what's working, what's not working, how have they grown their business, what have they tried with marketing, what's worked, what hasn't worked. So asking some open-ended questions and letting them talk. And I just bring a pad and pen and I take notes, and they tell you a lot. If you ask some really intelligent, open-ended questions, people love talking about themselves and their companies, and they can tell you, we tried this, it didn't work, we were disappointed, we did this email campaign, that was great, we dropped a postcard, that didn't work so well. So you listen to what they tell you, and and then you go to the next person and the next person. And you can spend, a few hours every month. You could be very intensive about it and do it, for 2 weeks straight and just listen. But at the end of your listening tour, you will start to see a lot of themes emerge. And so when I've done it at various points in the life of my company over the 18 years, and when the internet really started to explode and social media was really coming on to the forefront, when social media, Facebook, whatever started, it was really just for kids in school. You needed an EDU, school email address, and it was for teenagers. But then all of a sudden, there was Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram. And one theme I heard at a lot of my conversations on my listening tour at that point was people were really intrigued but confused by social media and all the online technologies. And they all wanted to know, should I be blogging? Do I need a newsletter? Should I have a company page on Facebook? Do I need to tweet? And so after my listening tour, when this topic came up time and time again, and it didn't matter if it was a small company, a big company, professional service firm, a consumer firm, a nonprofit, everybody had the same question. So what I did at the end of my listening tour is I wrote up a note that just summarized the themes that I heard, and I suggested that given so many organizations were struggling with what to do with social media, I was going to put together a workshop that I could do as a half-day workshop, a full-day workshop, or a multi-day workshop, depending on how deep they wanted to get into all the issues around social media, to how to leverage it to grow your brand and build your business. And I wrote up my notes, and I sent it to everybody I talked to, dozens of people. And I thanked them for their time, and I said, appreciate you, sharing all your thoughts. I wanted to share with you what I had heard talking to so many different people around the country and different types of businesses, and some suggestions. And if you want to talk further, give me a call. And I literally sent out that email, very targeted. It wasn't a mass email. I didn't buy a list. These are all personal connections of people that I had bought lunch or coffee for. And sure enough, like a dozen people emailed me back right away and said, "This is great. Oh my God, when are you doing the workshop? We want to do one for a half day. Can you do a lunch version of it? If I can fill the conference room and order pizza, will you come and give us a 1 hour workshop? Or can I reserve a conference room and we'll do a half day session and I'll fill the room for you with everyone from my company. How much are you charging?" And before I knew it, I had like 10 new clients right away, just based on the little nuggets and themes that I heard from my listening tour. So I think that's a great will to business.
Yeah. That I love that listening tour.
And then another kind of offshoot of that, because social media now is so prevalent, a lot of companies wonder, should I be on all the social media? What should I do? And the truth is, again, this kind of comes back to a theme we discussed earlier in our conversation. I don't think you need to be everywhere. I think you need to pick and choose and see where your customers are. If your clients are on LinkedIn, then you better be on LinkedIn. But if they're not on Facebook, then you don't need to be on Facebook. So for me, I'm a professional service firm. I don't tweet. I'm not on Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook, but I am very connected on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn for me is probably the most important social media platform, because it is such a professional. It's not just for people looking for jobs. It's a way for people to check you out and see if they can trust you. Who do they know that knows you? Who do we know in common? And if you publish a lot of articles or media, it's all on your LinkedIn profile, so they can check you out really quickly and see that you're, a respected person in your community. People have endorsed you. You're really good at what you do. You clean up well online. You have a great online reputation. So for me, I love writing, I love speaking, and I use LinkedIn. And that helps me build my business and elevate my brand, my competition.
Yeah, I hear the same thing from a lot of people. They're like, oh, I have to be everywhere. It's like
pick one or two places and do a really good job on those platforms. But I don't think you should be everywhere. You're spreading yourself too thin. And, President Trump loves to tweet. Great, let him tweet. That's his thing. Twitter doesn't do much for me. That's not how I get my business.
Yeah. For us here at Depictions Media, Twitter is passive. When I upload this episode, it will be found on Twitter. It will be found on Facebook. But our really active campaigns, again, go back to LinkedIn, because most of the people that we want to be sitting in the audience, especially for this particular show, are entrepreneurs. Are they going to be sitting on Facebook, or are they going to be sitting on LinkedIn looking for that service or whatever to help their business grow?
Right. No, LinkedIn's absolutely.
So that's what I try to tell people is, like, if you know who your audience is, then target that. And for you coming onto like, say, my show and everything, what was some of the process that you went through to decide that, hey, this is probably a pretty good place to talk about what my business does for people?
Yeah, I mean, I think people, before anybody has a meeting or returns a phone call or decides if they want to, collaborate with you at all today, I just think it's very natural for people to Google the person, their company, check them out online, check them out on LinkedIn. And, people want to do business with people they know, they like, they trust. And I think if you're invisible online, that is a terrible strategy, because if you're invisible online, you almost don't even exist today. But if I Google somebody and the first three things that come up are like not that professional, I always tell young people who are trying to interview and get into marketing and, that are looking to start their careers, be careful about your digital dirt, because if the first things that come up for you are like Facebook photos from spring break doing some, whatever, crazy things with your friends, or, bathing suit photos or whatever, that is not the first impression you want to make with people. You want to make sure that when people Google you, that you come up and clean up well online, and that there's no digital dirt out there. Mm-hmm. And, you've got a LinkedIn profile that's professional, that you've got a website that, if you blog, if you tweet, if you write articles, whatever, and with a name like mine, it's a hyphenated last name. It's really me. If your name were like Susan Smith or, Bob Jones, I don't know that it's the same person, because a lot of people have those names. But with a name like mine, it really is me. So people are going to make a snap judgment based on what comes up. And if what comes up is, she's written for Entrepreneur Magazine, she's written for Forbes, she speaks at all these conferences, here's her website, that you pass the sniff test immediately, and people say they're credible, I trust them, we know a lot of people in common, I saw that on LinkedIn, we should definitely talk to them, they look like they could be a good fit for us. And that's what you're doing when you leverage social media and technology.
See, I like that you said that. You said leverage, and that's the important part for people to remember is that you're trying to leverage it, and if your client isn't there, then what are you leveraging? So yeah. So, because we're starting to run out of time here. What would be the two best things for people to do in order to just starting out, to make sure that they get found and they start getting sales right off the bat?
Well, I think, great brands are started and built with great personal brands. So I think you start with yourself, and again, you build a great personal brand online so that if people do find you on LinkedIn or Google you, that what comes up is really strong. If you don't have a website, you need a website because, again, being invisible is a terrible marketing strategy. People have to be able to find you to be able to buy your product and service. So I would start there, absolutely. As far as all the tools in the marketing toolkit, you want to find the right words and pictures to tell a great story, and that, when people have a problem that your product or service can solve, that they can find you and they know how you can help and how to follow up. I feel like the most important thing is that you start small and build your base piece by piece. Don't spread yourself too thin. Don't try and boil the ocean. Do a few things, do them really well. I mean, if you remember when Amazon got started, they were just a place to go buy books. I think their original tagline was the world's largest bookseller. And they built a website, and all they wanted to do was sell you a book. That was their core product, day one. And it was when e-commerce was really just starting out, and they were building a relationship and building trust. And they wanted you to find the book and then give you your credit card number and your address, and they were going to sell you the book and send it to you. And that's all they did. And they did a good job, and people trusted them, and so they had a good business. Mm-hmm. And then they branched out, and they started doing, I think, music and videos and DVDs and things like that. And that worked out great, too, and people started buying more stuff. Well, fast forward, here we are today. I mean, people would buy anything on Amazon. You could start there for your groceries, your clothes, like any consumer product. There's nothing you can't buy on Amazon. You give them keys to your house. They deliver your package next day. They've got drones dropping stuff off. I mean, they have built an incredible brand. But again, they didn't do it overnight. They did it one step at a time, earning your trust, earning your loyalty, and branching out, with each incremental relationship that they have with you. They just, now they own Whole Foods here, so, you buy your food from them. You buy everything from them, and you don't even think twice about it. So I guess my advice to people trying to get started is you don't have to do it all from the beginning. And in fact, it's probably better if you do less at the beginning and do it really, really well, get to be known for that. And then as you, get stronger and more clients and more generating, more referrals and whatnot, then you can add to your services. But, the other thing I would say is there are a lot of marketing tools in the marketing toolkit. There's advertising, there's, online marketing, search engine marketing, SEO, all the different market research, public relations, social media. My bias, again, I love marketing. I love all the different ways you can market your business or organization. But I think most people benefit tremendously more from PR than anything else. It's the single most cost-efficient thing you can do to get your story out there. I think it was Bill Gates or Steve Jobs that said, if they only had, $10 to spend on marketing, they'd put it all into PR, because you get that third-party credibility. If you get written up in an article or you get an interview online or on TV or in a newspaper or magazine, that's like a third-party endorsement that you're a great product or service. And that carries a lot more weight than taking out an ad. Ads can be very expensive. And if you work for Procter Gamble or Coca-Cola, that's terrific. You've got big budgets. You can spend money on advertising. But most of my clients have very limited budgets. They're small companies, and they have to get as much bang for the buck as possible. So a lot of my clients use PR to get their stories out there and to get, get a lot more coverage for their brand and their business.
Right. PR is a very valuable tool. I'm glad you brought that up, because while we didn't find each other via PR, we found each other via another journalist website.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think that is one of the PR tools in the toolkit, and I think that's how you make some of your very best connections today.
Yeah. So, with that being said, what are the best ways for people to actually get a hold of you and to work with Mavens and Mogul?
So the best way is to go to my website. It's www.mavensandmoguls.com. It's MAVENSANDMOGULS.com. And you can contact me through the website. You can Google Paige and Mavens and find me that way. But that's, I've written a lot of articles. I've got all my articles on my website. I've got a lot of my talks on the website. So you can definitely get to see and hear and learn a lot about my experience and what I've done and how I've helped clients. And if it sounds like something you want to talk more about, please, by all means, reach out and give me a buzz. I'd love to talk further.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking with me today, and I hope that we reconnect another time.
Thank you, Michael. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on your show. It was really fun to chat with you today.
Okay. And thank you, and I'll let you get back to your customers back there in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Sounds great.
Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for listening, and we hope you all have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday. Bye for now.